It's the Locked On NFL podcast. Thanks for finding us on YouTube. Hit subscribe for great daily content, such as this interview. Jake Liscow, of course, Locked On Bengals, breaking down the big Saturday victory for Cincy. Jake, how does this team continue to change the narrative that's kind of plagued this organization for as long as I can remember? It's been going on for 3 decades plus. But how did they continue to just kind of change it when there were some pretty good players in the last decade and a half that couldn't do the same thing?
There's something about this team that's clutch. It's
Yeah.
a clutch gene that the Bengals of Andy Dalton and Carson Palmer really since the early 90s haven't had in the same way. And you could even look back at the Bengals' previous Super Bowl appearances, both against the 49ers, and both of those end in heartbreak. So y- for Bengals fans, you hope the clutch gene continues, whether it's DJ Reader showing up to shut down Chris Henry or the offensive line finally protecting. It felt like for a game winning field goal setting up touchdown or out pass to Jamar Chase. Fumbling my words there pretty good, but
Mhm.
they clutched up at the right time, and I think that you credit Duke Tobin in the front office for spending on players in free agency for the first time in a long time for the Bengals. Those defensive players making a big difference. And you credit Zach Taylor, who coming into the season was, I think, the leading odds getter and first coach to be fired for establishing a culture that I think really matters and a really tight knit group in that locker room.
Yeah. Also, and not pointing you out, but Derrick Henry, not the late Chris Henry, former Bengals receiver, as you said, but
Oh, sorry.
bottled him up. Look, we saw, a lot of us have seen the quote, rookie place kicker Evan McPherson telling the sidelines, looks like we're going to the AFC Championship game before drilling his 52-yard game-winning field goal. Since he's a confident group, does it stem from their head coach and Zach Taylor, or is it that quarterback Joe Burrow? We've seen him ever since he kind of got into the spotlight at LSU. He's obviously a very confident young man as well.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think that the confidence probably comes from Burrow, but I think that McPherson just has it too. I think there are three guys on this team that have the innate confidence that really shows up. And I'm not saying that the other guys don't, but it's really apparent to me when you talk about Joe Burrow, and that one's the most obvious. If you've listened to Evan McPherson all year, which why would you if you're not somebody who follows the Bengals on a daily basis? That's kind of been the guy he's been all year. He knows when he hits it. He said he doesn't even watch the kicks. He didn't watch the kick go through. He knew when he hit it. You go back to the Green Bay game, and he got embarrassed because he didn't watch a kick that he thought he hit well that didn't go through. And so there's a clip out there of him celebrating a missed game-winning field goal in that game. But
Yeah.
he's hit now, I think, 11 from 50 plus, including the playoffs this year for a rookie kicker. And I think he's had that confidence from the beginning of the year. And the other guy is Jamar Chase, who is the first rookie with two 100 plus yard receiving games in the playoffs and has just been another guy who, when they need it this year, in the big moments, he's stepped up and has been more than worthy of that fifth overall pick.
Okay, let's get to some of the rocky stuff from especially the offensive performance.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow sacked 9 times, intercepted for the first time in 5 games. Jake, how has this offense been able to kind of overcome all season long? Because he's over 60 sacks this season. Joe Burrow has been sacked 60 times plus. How have they been able to overcome all season long poor offensive line play?
It's been different stuff in different games. In the recent days, the pressure hasn't bothered Burrow. He's been able to deal with the pressure to create off script, extend plays. That wasn't the case this week. I think that this week it wasn't so much necessarily offensive linemen losing physically, although that was happening. I think that they had issues going on the road with crowd noise. You could see that Burrow was breaking the huddle too late at times. We've talked about this on Locked On Bengals quite a bit. Zach Taylor talked about he needs to get the plays in faster, and they were having a tough time communicating. So I think there were some miscommunication issues that led to one guy sliding the wrong way and letting free rushers come through. That happened in specific on a Harold Landry sack when he came through as a free rusher. And you can't have Harold Landry coming through as a free rusher through your B gap. And that's just a miscommunication issue. But you can see that 9 sacks in a game is where it really starts to impact your offense. And
Yeah.
and the Bengals offense was not as efficient as it wanted to be, against the Titans, taking sacks at inopportune times. But the go forward is figure out how to deal with the noise. I think that had a huge impact on this game. And another thing for Joe Burrow that's a learning experience for him is this is the first time in really in the last 8 weeks, I would say that he's been confused pre snap to post snap. And I don't think that many teams left in the playoff field could do this. But Mike Vrabel's defense was not giving them what they were showing him. And without being able to use the hard count as a weapon, which he's done all year to gather information pre snap, I think that that limited Burrow as well and caused some hesitation in the pocket because it wasn't all offensive line. I
Yeah.
mean, the offensive line wasn't good in pass protection, but Burrow was holding the ball a little bit sometimes as well due to some post snap confusion.
Would you say it's worrisome or encouraging that we haven't seen this offense have a good performance in 2 playoff games?
Well, I thought they were okay against the Raiders. They
Okay.
had issues in the red zone, I thought, and again, they got down toward the red area against the Titans and had to settle for field goals. Otherwise, this could have been a bit of a lopsided game with the Titans turning the ball over 3 times. I'm not necessarily worried about it. I do think that the Bills present a novel challenge to the Bengals. They've at least seen the Chiefs this year. That they know what the Chiefs wanted to do to them on defense. They've seen that style of defense this year as well. I think that there's a clear formula out there, which is keep a body over Jamar Chase. Don't let Jamar Chase get behind you. Make Joe Burrow be patient. Try to disguise things, but I don't think many teams can do that. So it's hard for me to harbor long-term concerns about Burrow. I think that the offensive line will remain a concern, especially the right side for the remainder of the playoffs. They'll have to continue to overcome it if they want to keep winning games, but the silver lining is the defense stepped up in a big way. Derrick Henry, thanks for correcting me earlier, was really bottled up in this game. The defensive line, which for some reason, Phil Simms in the CBS pregame show called the Bengals a finesse team, which coming out of the AFC North is a crazy thought to me. They had 4 guys that weighed 330 pounds or more active yesterday, and they put them on the field together. The defensive line really did a great job at the point of attack, I thought, in the run game. So they showed that they can get wins in different ways. And that's something that they've done a few times this year. You go back to the Denver game, you go back to some games early in the season, and it's not always Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. Sometimes they can win games other ways too.
That's the misconception of drafting a wide receiver at 5th overall,
I guess so.
probably, instead of going that offense or defensive line. It's going to end our insight into the big win, but you, of course, can get more and more insight all week long leading up to the AFC Championship game. Follow at Locked On Bengals. Listen to them free across all platforms, including their YouTube page, which is on fire right now. Jake, look forward to the coverage leading up to the game. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.